When we go out to eat, we never agree on where to go.
I want burgers! Pizza.
Tacos it is.
The one thing we do agree on is we all want unlimited high-speed data. That's why we switched to Metro PCS.
Stop by Metro PCS with the whole family and get 4 lines with unlimited LTE data for just $100, period. Metro PCS. Wireless. Figured out.
Coverage not available in some areas. Offers require port and if number not currently active on T-Mobile network. During congestion, the fraction of customers using more than 35 gigs per month may notice reduced speeds. Video streams at up to 40p. No tethering. See store for details and terms and conditions.
Blog Talk Radio.
Well, good afternoon, one and all. It is officially 1:01. That's pretty good, actually. Usually I'm like 2-3 minutes late, aren't I? How terrible is that, isn't it? It's kind of terrible, isn't it? I have my own radio show, and I can't be on time for it, especially since I do it in my own home studio. Anyways, it's well worth the wait. Hello, everybody. I hope you guys had a wonderful weekend. Obviously, of course, I have another barrage of shows. I think this happens purposely because the holidays come and everybody has something or someone to promote, right? Very super excited about today, one of which is a reschedule from last week, which is Stirling Kinross, of course, who will be after the lovely Carla. First off, obviously, Carla with Stiletto Gym. We'll get to her in just a second. But obviously, John will be on straight after her at 2 o'clock. We're going to be chit-chatting about his book and how he is helping women to become stronger, saner, and hopefully more financially secure as it relates to divorce. Obviously, we'll be talking to Carla in a second. Couple quick reminders here to everybody. This coming weekend, I'm sending listen to me, I can't even talk this afternoon. I'll be sending an invitation to everybody for the Art is Alive, which is my film festival calendar we've been talking about for weeks. It's Art is Alive, the magic of indie films. That's going to be coming out. Obviously, that focuses on all the finalists and all the winners of my independent festival this last year. Super, super, super excited. So do whatever you can to help me sell. I think the target goal is 2,000, in which case, if I sell 2,000 calendars, the commitment is I will give back $2,000 or $3,000 to the filmmakers. So I'm super excited to be making a difference in terms of that. Obviously, if you haven't got my son's comic book, Sergeant Seizure and the Evil Dr. Cuckoo, please go to the Facebook page or the website on the Facebook page and get your copy now. Don't want to forget to remind everybody I have 2 split shows tomorrow, one in the afternoon at 2 o'clock. Our dear friend Michael Sheehan is coming back on the show, and he is coming to promote his new Christmas book. And he is a New York City retired cop who decided he's just done such marvelous things for children in the city. So, super excited to talk to him. And then at 5 o'clock, obviously, of course, we're going to be having our rescheduled interview with Todd at SimFit. So, double back, 2 and 5, kind of sort of double back. And then, of course, for those of you who are out and about tomorrow, I'm going to be at Buck Bradley's for the holiday party. And, of course, Thursday is my casting meeting with some of my cast for my movie. In case you haven't checked out my movie yet, Love's Two-Way Mirror. Facebook. We don't have a website. Why? Because I'm trying to get out a calendar to do 800 other things. So without further ado, I don't want to I'm just done talking. Let's have Carla talk. Let's get her on the line and start our interview. Hi, Carla.
Hi. How are you today?
Oh, I had a lot to say, didn't I? Well, there was a lot of ground to cover. When I'm off all weekend and then I don't come on, it's like there's so much to do, and I feel like I just feel like everybody is listening to the radio right now, even though I know they're not. But this way, when they listen, they'll get like all the stimmy and what's happening, and oh my God, I'm losing my mind. My cards aren't done. My house is a mess. I'm tired. You know this drill. It's a lot. I mean, there's a lot at holiday times, and
there is.
So I have a lot of shows, a lot of stuff, and so this is my time to talk about apparently polls and gyms and Pretty Women and all sorts of fun things that I just know nothing about. I mean, I don't. I mean, first of all, I'm very anti-gym. I'm not going to lie to you. And second of all, the idea of a 48-year-old woman who's got flab from her babies being on a pole, I don't know if I'm brave enough for that. I'm not going to lie to you. I mean, seriously. But we're going to talk about why. We're going to say, and we're going to learn why everyone should go see Carla today. There's a lot of ground to cover. I've done my homework. I hope you don't mind. There's just a lot to talk about.
Oh, I love that you, yes, that's great, yeah.
Well, that's my job. I mean, I've been a journalist for a long time, so I started as a journalist, then I went to radio. But what's cool is I get to talk to you, you know what I mean? Most of the time you write an article, and that's kind of it. And you're live, and you're human, and she even friended me yesterday. I felt so special. I'm like, oh, my gosh, I'm her friend on Facebook.
I know, so friend.
So yes, and I finally creeped on you today. But we'll get into that.
Oh,
okay. So first things first. We want to talk about, I know that recently you had an event actually in November where you're raising funds to help Hurricane Irma. So let's get an update on that. How did things go? What kind of a crowd did you have? Did you manage to accomplish your goal?
Yes, and in fact, we're scheduling, we're doing another one as well. So we're raising money for another pole studio. because in the pole world, I guess that's what I'm going to call it, the pole world, it's more of like a sisterhood. So we want to help each other. It's more of a community, helping each other. And so that was in November.
Oh, cool.
Yeah.
Yeah, right. I'd heard about that. And I thought to myself, you know what that reminds me of? I have an entire other radio show that deals with motorcycle riders, and a lot of my female riders are very much that way. It's almost like a sisterhood in their organizations, and they're very, very close to one another. It's amazing, and I love the fact that you're going to be doing something for hurricane victims. That's awesome.
Yes.
Now, when you decided to pick Kelly's, because I know that it was Kelly's Aerial Arts and Fitness that were the benefactors of this, do you work with them, or was it just an organization you met, or how did that come about?
No, so it's just it's another studio. So
okay.
Yeah, so it's another pole dance studio or pole studio. So there's tons and tons of gyms all throughout the United States and the world. There are more and more pole dance studios popping up as well. There's still not as many as traditional gyms, and it was just we picked them because they impacted impacted by the hurricane, and just to help them get up and rolling. Because I'm an entrepreneur, a business owner, a small business owner. This is my livelihood. So, and I'm sure it's her livelihood. So, you have employees and you have your family and everyone depending on you getting up and rolling as soon as you can.
You bet. I got you. Yeah. Well, how sweet is that? That's wonderful. So I wanted to touch base on that because I knew that was a while ago. So I thought, well, let's check in about that. That's number one off the top of the bat. Okay. Now, in my study of you, I found out that you have a master's in psychology through St. Mary University. So I had a question relative to that. I don't know how much psychology you actually implement because I imagine that there's some degree of that as it relates to dancing, et cetera, because I know people don't think that there's a physical and a mental connection, but there really is. So I want to talk a bit about, even though you have your master's, have you done anything specific to that? Meaning I assume that you can, and I'm not stupid, but do you see patients? Do you counsel people? Do you know what I mean? We think psychology and we think, oh, she must be treating people. Do you know what I'm saying?
Right. And I still practice privately. So I'm part of a private practice where I have just a handful of clients. I still have a handful of clients in the traditional psychology world. But yeah, I actually use it more, I think, at my studio. And I'm always kidding with the girls saying that this is the best group therapy ever. And it is. And in fact, in January, I think it's the second Wednesday, our Wednesday workshops, we're actually doing just a pole dance class for people who are trying to overcome whatever it is. Loss, depression, anxiety, whatever it is, they're just going to come join this class. Because I truly believe I see such transformation in people because our mind and our body are connected, and we forget that. And we hold a lot of emotion and pain and emotion in our bodies. So in order to release that, a lot of times movement is one of the best remedies ever. And if you're having fun and laughing, it also helps.
Oh, my God, yeah, without a doubt. I think laughter is one of the best medicines in the entire world. In fact, most people don't laugh, enough in the world. In fact, I laugh at myself about 80 times a day. But they do. I think they need a sense of empowerment. They need laughter. They need some form of looseness, as I call it in life. Everybody's very stiff and tense and so serious all the time.
Yes.
And sometimes it's very difficult to break through that. Oh, my God, well, you know what I'm saying? It's crazy.
It's very and just the dance portion and stretch portion, it's such a mind-body connection. And, it's I've seen such transformation, people coming in, and then the support that they get from other people in class.
Of course.
Yes. So they're encouraging them. The first time you climb to the top of the pole, it's an accomplishment. I mean, that is a physical, and emotional, and mental accomplishment just to get from point A to point B up the pole.
Of course. Gotcha. Yeah, and she makes it sound so easy, doesn't she? And we're going to get into that later because all I'm doing is shaking my head and I'm like, oh yeah, I'm so down for that whole thing. Yeah, okay. Moving right along, and some of the stuff that we're covering right now is I think it's very important that people know that you're an actual human, that you don't live on a pole 24/7, that you're not living in your gym all the time, that you actually have a life outside of it, clearly. Yes. First of all, I've seen her, and if you haven't checked her out, she's so pretty. I'm like, oh my gosh, you have to be like 30 And you're so cute, and you're in such good shape. A little jealous there. I have to ask you.
Thank you.
Because, you run a gym, so I'm going to assume, this is an assumption, does this mean that along with the physical mentality that you have yourself a nutritional expectation, meaning oftentimes when people go to gym, all of it is really, there's part mind, there's part body, and then there's, of course, taking care of your body from a nutritional standpoint. So to keep yourself in shape, do you subscribe to that whole, got to take care of myself in terms of what I eat, what I put in there, et cetera, or is that less important to you? Not that it's not important, I'm saying, but you know what I mean?
Right. No, and yes. So it's less important to me. I know I eat well. I eat right.
Okay.
But,
Sure.
last night it was my daughter's 13th birthday, and, we went out to dinner. And, we split a cheesecake. I'm here to live.
OMG.
So we went.
I'm here to live.
I mean, I'm not going to do that every day. Day, but I will. It's important to me. I do eat well, but I'm not, I don't eat 6 meals a day. I'm not competing for a competition. What I am doing is I'm trying to live a healthy, happy lifestyle that, is good for my health and good for my well-being and my emotional state.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Gotcha. Okay. Yeah. Now, if you were to recommend to somebody who's listening in who is a little more health conscious, and let's say that they want to start doing something within the course of your gym, do you give them some gyms talk about giving them a regimen? Like if you come to us, and I know that you specialize in certain things, would you kind of prep your clients before they come in and say, here's what you need to expect, this is what you need to do, this will be a bit out of your normal routine? You know what I'm saying?
Yes. So we have a lot of times, especially if they're coming in one-on-one, so they have a specific goal. So say, they're getting in shape for a wedding, or they want to compete in a pole dance competition. So we'll figure out what their goal is, and if their goal is to compete or to get to a certain size by a certain date, nutrition, I emphasize nutrition is 80% of it. You have to watch what you put in your mouth in order to get the results that you're looking for. So the physical aspect is important, but the nutrition is a key piece if you're looking to, gain optimum health, to get to a certain size, a certain weight, get to compete in a competition. Nutrition is so important. And I can't emphasize that more because a lot of people will come in and they're having fun on the pole, but they're like, okay, I still have this, my stomach's still there. And I will say, what are you eating? There is the issue. You can't just, eat fried chicken and bread and expect to get the results you're looking for.
Out. She just literally named my diet. And I'm so quiet because I'm so embarrassed. Just kidding. Maybe that's half my diet. So about that wine and alcohol thing. And I bring this up because people who follow me, they know I suck down wine on occasion. I mean, constantly. But the point being is, we need to touch that because it's important, especially with the holidays right now. I mean, I'm not going to lie to you. I think we're all going to overindulge just because it is that time. Yes. However, if it's not December, January, whatever, is there such a thing as suitable socializing as it relates to alcohol, or at what point should we be concerned? Because your body can only tolerate so much, obviously. And your body can, and things like that.
Yeah, and alcohol is just, it's not good. But, we're all going to have, a cocktail or a glass of wine. Again, everything in moderation. A lot of times I'll have, a glass of wine and a water, and then another glass of wine and a water, or a glass of wine and 2 waters.
Right.
So everything just in moderation. And you're right. It's the holidays. We have Christmas parties, and you're socializing, and you're consuming some adult beverages and eating maybe foods that you normally would not eat. But again, everything in moderation, and maybe eat before you go to the party. Eat something healthy, and then when you get there, you're not as hungry. Eating something healthy and filling before you even get to the party, and then you're just nibbling.
Oh, yeah. Well, that's my other problem is you get invited to so many parties, and then you only nibble so much, and then before you know it, you're kind of tipsy and all that jazz and stuff. But at least I know people always tell me all the time on a side note that wine is healthy for you. And I don't overindulge, but I do enjoy it. So I'm like, I don't think it's really that difficult. Yeah. Well, right. Okay. Yeah. So I'm not that far off base.
And it's everything just in moderation. Yeah.
Well, of course. Thank you very much for clearing that up. So next time you folks are picking on me because I'm out being a wino, she just told you it was healthy. So there you go. See, thank you so much for making me feel better on that one.
You're welcome.
Okay. Now, as I was creeping along your Facebook page, and I say that in a loving way, I happened to come across your beautiful, beautiful child. Oh, my gosh. Your little girl just had a birthday, a 13th birthday, Sophia.
Yeah, 13. I know. I can't, Sophia, I cannot believe I have a teenager. Yes.
Well, it is freaky, isn't it? Because my son's going to be 13 next week, too, as a matter of fact. And I was looking at her, and I saw, now she's going to be in a artistic production, correct? Or has that happened already? Oh, my God, how exciting. That's like one of my favorites in the whole wide world.
She's in the Kansas City Ballet, so she's part of the Kansas City Ballet. And she auditions every year for the Nutcracker, which is a huge production. It's at our what we call the Kaufman Center here. So they have 24 performances, and so she's in 12 because they have Cast A and Cast B. So she's in 12 of the 24. So my life right now is chaotic. Yes.
Oh, I can imagine because I've got, 2 boys at home and one is almost 13 and the other one's a little bit younger. So I have to ask you this question because my son just came home yesterday and he was talking about he loves this one girl at school, and he was like, he finally got her phone number and he was all excited and he's so cute and he's like, I'm just not cute enough to ask her to go to Starbucks. It was the saddest thing but the cutest thing, and I was like, oh my gosh. So I have to ask you because your child's about the same age. So, like, are they afraid? I'm imagining that you're probably a little overprotective, and I'm wondering if your daughter is, like, going to be allowed to date before she's 30, because I wonder.
Yeah.
Do you have a stance on it?
And I tell her, you can't date till you're 16, but she's always talking about the boys. That's part of our conversation. And she's having a party Saturday night where I'm taking them to this, like, a little trampoline place. And I said, are there going to be boys meeting you there? So now I know she's 13. I know she's interested in boys. So now my motherly instincts are like watching over everything she does, searching her phone. And
oh, of course. Tell me about it all the time. I'm the same way. I'm like, are you texting her? And he's like, no, Mom. And I'm like, are you sure about that? I know. Sometimes it's tough when they get to that age. It's a challenging age. They're growing. They're changing. It's interesting. And she's very beautiful, I have to say. Oh, my gosh. Your daughter is very, very cute, actually. And I went on to do a little reading, of course. And if it's not too uncomfortable for you, I wanted to speak about your husband. Obviously, I understand you're a widow. So, of course, Steve. Now, I want to talk a bit about how if his passing in part was part of the reason why you decided to implement new programs and do things, because I know you've owned the gym for a significant amount of time. So we want to talk a bit about Steve, and we want to talk about his memory a little bit and what he has left inside of you that stays alive here, even though he's passed on.
Right, yes. So, yeah, you're correct. In 2016, my husband of 16 years died suddenly of a stroke. So he had a massive stroke, and so it was what I consider a week from hell, that entire week. And so he passed, and yes, at that point, you don't expect that. I mean, it's not something we were planning. My daughter was young, and, our day consisted of, hey, who's going to pick her up from dance that night? And so you're just living your life day to day, and then this happens. And it was so unexpected that it just brought me to my knees. I didn't know what I was going to do, and I truly did not know how I was going to teach or be part of life again. And so I remember my instructors, I have a beautiful staff, just basically took over the studio. So they kept it running. I was gone for a month. And I remember thinking, I have to go back. That's the only thing that's going to help me get better. And I went back, and I thought my first class, either I'm going to end up in the corner crying, bawl, or I will figure it out. And I figured it out. And at that point, at that point, I knew I was going to be okay. Because when you're around death and dying and just not anything that's anything that says life, to get back to life and movement and laughter and music helps the soul. And I can tell you firsthand, it helps you heal. And you're right. When I experienced that, I suddenly realized, hey, I've seen transformation in the studio in other people, but now I see and feel what it is like personally. And so if I can help and encourage and inspire other women to overcome whatever, it doesn't have to be a loss of a husband. It could be a loss of a relationship. It could be a loss of, a job. Loss is loss. And, we all experience loss and grief differently. But if I can inspire and help and encourage someone to get through that, that's what I want to do.
And I have to ask this question, obviously. In terms of, if there's someone listening in today who has had a loss of a spouse, let's say, for instance, any good advice you could offer them, or maybe a tip or two that just kind of helped you to be in a better place?
Yes.
Because I know, obviously, it's a long time healing, but what would you tell somebody who's listening?
And it is a long time healing. Everyone heals differently and everyone grieves differently. And I would say get back to life as soon as you can. And I know it's hard because then the psychologist in me comes out where, you feel guilt and, I'm alive and my spouse or whoever is not. How can I go on and live when they're not here?
Right.
But you have to go back to life because they wouldn't want that for you. So we're placed on this earth, I think, with a purpose, and we're here to live. And so whatever you can do, whether it's, going for a walk with a girlfriend or, joining a yoga class or doing something because you have to get your mind off of the death and the dying and move it more to life and get your mind and body moving together. And then do something, in memory of, or, you can keep your loved one's memory alive, which I do. I talk to my daughter every day about her daddy. So I never want her to forget who her daddy was and that he loved her deeply. But I still have to live, and I have to live for her.
Of course.
And I think having a child going through something like this, you look at them saying, I can't just ball up. I can't lay in bed and cry. I have to get up. I have to move forward, not move on, but I have to start a new chapter for myself and for her. So I think also having somebody depending on me was also helpful in my determination to get up.
Oh, sure. I understand. I do.
Yeah.
Definitely.
Yeah.
Well, this begs me to ask the question, of course. Do you think at some point in time you'll ever find yourself in a position where maybe your heart will be open to meeting someone, having a new relationship?
Yes, I have. And I have met a wonderful man. Yes.
Oh,
yes.
How sweet.
Yes.
That's
so
awesome.
My heart, I did not want to close my heart, and that was one thing I did not want to do. I was not, I love, I guess. I love people. I love. And that's one thing I did not want to do, close my heart. I wanted to keep it open. And, yes, I met someone, and every day I count my blessings, and I'm so truly grateful that, I was able to have another chance at love.
That's so romantic. I always tend to believe it's the people that have left us that send someone, whether it's
yes, and I truly believe that
it's
not
necessarily. Really? Well, look at that. Oh my gosh. Well, my goodness.
I truly
my
believe
last
that.
question. My last question for you is, sadly, you have some experience in this area, so I have to ask for some advice here. And just because I just happened to see the cause of death for your husband, actually. And it wasn't so long ago, actually about 2 months ago, I was misdiagnosed, and it turns out that I had a partial stroke myself. And so it's not been easy these last couple of months. I've been petrified, actually. So just out of curiosity, because obviously your husband probably had the same provisions or certain things as myself, was there anything that you guys could have done differently? Did they give you some kind of good advice? I guess I've just kind of freaked out ever since that, because I guess that's a warning sign that it's coming. So I'm just trying to do anything and everything I can. So Just asking you if you have any good advice for somebody like me.
Yes. So my husband and I were different in that when my daughter was 2, I believe she was 2, he had a heart attack. So he had a heart attack, and then the doctors kept telling him, eat right and exercise.
Okay.
You need to eat right and exercise. So
that's what I've heard. Yep.
I always said I wasn't his. I'm not your mama, but
of course.
Why don't we go for a walk? Why don't you come to the gym with me? Why don't you? And he was active in his job. He was a home builder, built lots of homes. So I think that he was active. I mean, it wasn't like he was immobile or anything. He was active.
Right.
So I think that he assumed that was physical enough. And then, I would cook at home, but then, he would stop, and in his truck would be like Burger King and, all kinds of fast food. So he was attempting to eat healthier and to exercise more. But I just think, and again, he was a man, and men are a little bit more stubborn.
God, yeah.
Why don't you go to the doctor? Why don't you get this checked? And he did go to the doctor often, but I think he probably had some signs, didn't tell me, or ignored them. And again, that whole mind-body connection, I think, comes into play too.
Right.
When you feel and you know something's wrong, go get it checked out. Listen to the intuition. Listen to what something inside of you is saying that there's something wrong, and get it checked out. Because again, I think that he just kind of ignored things.
Well, right, and I'm terrible about that. In fact, I've learned my lesson now because I've ignored and I've ignored and I've ignored. And I don't know if you had heard of you may be familiar with Dr. John Sarno's work. When I was in New York, I became familiar with him, and he is all about mind body. And so I've had issues for a year and a half now. It was the heart first, and then it was the stroke thing now. So now I'm doing my film next month. And so if that film, between the diet and everything else that's now changed physically, and I do my film next month, if I'm not better by then I give up. Like, now I've dealt with everything. I've dealt with my body. Now I'm dealing with the mental stuff. I'm like, oh, my God, it's nuts.
And
but thank you for that. I appreciate that.
I think stress.
Oh, my God. Oh, without a doubt.
Yes. So yoga, I truly believe a lot of things are healed by yoga. Have you ever taken a yoga class or?
Not yet. I'm in the process of trying to do so. I'm so sad that you're so far away because you're in Kansas City. I'm in Wisconsin, and then part of the time I work in New York City. So I was thinking about that today. I'm like, boy, even if I wanted to see her, I'd have to make a point to stop there or to get in that particular area because I'm not right in your neck of the woods, which reminds me, I was going to ask you that. It seems a little different that Kansas City was the place where you set up shop. So I was just curious, you know what I mean? Because a lot of these studios I see are, Chicago, I've seen some in L.A., et cetera. But you didn't pick a big studio or a big city, I should say. Was there a reason for that, or are you just born and raised
there?
No,
and I'm from Kansas City. I lived in California for a while, but my base, my home is in Kansas City, and it's in the middle of the country. It's right in the middle of the country, so literally I can get anywhere in a matter of 3 hours. And we're actually starting, and this might be something you're looking in, or you can look into right after the first of the year. We're going to start some mobile stuff. So
nice.
you can get online, and right now actually, I created. And I brought up yoga, but I created a class called Polga, which is pole yoga.
Oh, yeah.
So
we're going to talk about that.
It's stretching using the pole. So it's stretching and strengthening using the pole, which is fabulous. Tomorrow night, in fact, at my studio, we're doing a lady spa night where we're doing 45 minutes of pole yoga, followed by 15 minutes of meditation and relaxation.
That's cool.
That's just to release the stress.
Gotcha. Yeah, and I've been told that before too. So my goal is once the film gets shot in January, and then in February, it's just a week off with the kids and doing nothing and reprioritizing. Yes. And I am slowing down little by little, but it's scary. And then when I saw this, I thought to myself, Yes, I appreciate breathing, so I need to take it more seriously. You're just a great reminder, so thank you. And I am. I'm taking this very, very seriously. I value my life very much. And then I can't talk to Carla ever again, and that would really suck.
That would be very sad.
She's intimidating me already. She's already intimidating me.
It would be sad.
Now, before we get to your actual Stiletto Gym, I want to talk about this. I didn't know you were the president of Divas Dancing for Divas. I want to talk about how you got involved with that, because that is a cool organization. I checked out the website, researched it a little bit.
Yes.
Tell the folks a bit about Divas Dancing for Divas and how you aligned with that.
So Divas Dancing for Divas actually was mine. I created it.
Oh, okay.
I did that for 5 years straight. And so then I had to take a break because, like you, I had too much on my plate, and I knew I couldn't take it. I mean, like, I just needed to give it a break for a year or two because it's a big undertaking. So I gave it a break, and we were reviving it in 2016 when my husband died. Mm-hmm. So that got put on the back burner because then I was dealing with the death of my husband. We'll bring that back. So this is how it originated. I would go to a lot of fitness conventions, to get trained and be inspired and to learn new, the latest and greatest on fitness classes. And I'd be in these ballrooms with hundreds of people, and the energy in there was incredible. I love energy of people moving and dancing because, again, it's very healing. So I thought, how can I bring this back to Kansas City? So I thought, well, if I align myself with a charity and we do something good for other people and then we dance at the same time, it's a win-win situation. So the first year, I threw it together myself. I had, some vendors, and we had over 300 people at this event the first year.
Wow.
And it was like a huge mob dance. So people would come, they would shop, I would teach them a dance, and we'd all do it together. And then we did it another year. And so I would get groups of women. So like you would get a group of your girlfriends to come to this event, and you would have a theme. Like you would say, we're the sexy babes, right? And you would come dressed, like 10 of you would come dressed in your theme. So it was just a fun ladies' day out, and you would then, the money would go to a charity. So the third or fourth year into it, I developed my own 501(c)(3). So Divas Dancing for Divas is its own nonprofit. And then the funds we kept within the city, and we would give back to other people within the city. So other women who needed in the city, we would give back.
That is cool. That is wonderful.
And then I think it was the last year or the year before I think it was, I don't remember, 2009 or 2010. I'd have to look at it. We established the Guinness World Record. Yeah.
Yes, I was just going to ask you about that.
We have the Guinness World Record of the largest chair dance.
And that's 271 participants back in November of 2011. That is so cool.
2011.
Well, not only that, when I read it, I'm like,
thanks, Cindy.
Well, I was so impressed by that. I'm like, dude, when I pick up my son today, he's like all over those Guinness Book of World Records. I'm going to be like, guess who I interviewed today? Yeah, that's right, somebody in the Guinness Book of World Record Awards. It's like, oh my God, imagine that for a bragging right on a date. I'm in the Guinness Book. So there, top that one.
Maybe that's
now
how
I feel like a
lucky
loser. Thanks a lot, Carla. Thanks. Even more of a loser. Thank you. And I don't look as good as her either. Yeah, loving that guest today. Okay, so that brings us to the obvious, which is I have tons of questions about the Stiletto Gym. First of all, because I've never been there before, and second of all, because none of the people that are listening in, sadly, may not have heard from you or heard about you. So it's important that we talk about this. I'm going to start off with something very generic, which is something that I found that you had said. One of the best reasons to go to the Stiletto Gym is to become more passionate, confident, and make new friends, as well as evolving into a new person and developing, obviously, muscle strength as well. So there's a number of factors that are listed there. But I want to start off by the first two, which is becoming more passionate and confident. I'm not going to lie to you. I say this all the time. People tell me that I'm attractive, and that's great. But you know how it is when you feel like you're just, taking a shower and you're looking at yourself and you're like, yeah, no pole's going to make me feel sexy. So I guess I wonder, can somebody like myself who has absolutely very little confidence in how she looks, how do you work with someone like that to develop skills like this?
So I think it's just allowing them to let the inner goddess out. And she's in all of us, but she's so buried sometimes.
Yeah, I know.
And so women will come into the studio, and I see it every day because we do lots and lots of girls' night out parties. So I get people in from all over the country that comes in. So they come into the studio, and I can see they're a little apprehensive. They're like, I can't be sexy. I don't know what I'm doing. And so it's just easing them into it, making them feel comfortable with the environment of the studio, first and foremost, because they're walking into the unknown. So just making sure that if it's myself or one of my instructors, you feel comfortable in the environment. You know, it's not intimidating. It's not scary. It's just we want them to feel comfortable. And then we just start some basic movement. And again, connection, mind, body. Just some basic movement, and then laughter ensues. Oh, I can't do this, and then encouraging words from others. Myself, the instructor, other people in the class, you are sexy. That does look good. And then all of a sudden, you, with the movement and the encouragement and you feeling comfortable in the studio, things just start clicking. And you're like, okay, this does feel pretty good. I do feel a little sexy. I think I can do this. And then the confidence starts to build. Yes, because
I got it.
You just have to allow yourself to feel. I mean, we all have the ability. You know, you've done it before, I'm sure. We've all done it where we put on a cute dress or get our hair done. Sure. You know, I do it every time I get my hair done. I'm like, oh, I wish I could look like this every day, you know. But you walk out of that salon or you walk out of wherever and you're like, okay, I do feel pretty good. So we all know we have the ability to do it. It's just a lot of times we don't allow it to happen every day.
Oh, of course.
And it's taking what women do and feel and learn in the studio to the outside world.
Oh, yeah. That reminds me. When you're walking in from the outside world and walking into a class of yours, per se, is there something that you say to your clients and say to them or that they keep in mind when they show up, meaning that I imagine it's hard to diffuse yourself from difficulty, meaning like I've had a stressful day, my kids are driving me nuts, all of this is going on. What do you recommend to your clients so that they can come in and stay centered or focused? Do you know what I'm saying?
Right. So I think it's easier when you walk into a class because now you're focusing on, okay, I'm trying to learn this spin, or I'm trying to get this stretch, or I'm trying to learn this routine, or I'm trying to accomplish or do a certain task. And so automatically your mind goes away from, oh, the kids are driving me crazy. I have 3 deadlines at work. My husband and I just got in a fight. All of a sudden, the mind shuts off from that, and now it's focusing on something else. And earlier when I was talking about me going back to the studio after the death of my husband, my mind was focusing so much on death, and now I was able to focus my mind and body on life. So automatically, it's a mind shift. Because now I'm focusing on, okay, I need to put my left leg on the pole, and I need to fall, and I need to bring this other one up. So your mind now is focusing on something entirely different than the fight you just had with your husband or how, the kids are driving you crazy with their homework.
Gotcha. I see what you're talking
so
about.
You're able to let go of that, which is so good for stress levels and for mental health because now like I said earlier, you learn what you can do in the studio. You know that you can shut it down, even if it's for an hour. You can shut down the chatter of that stress and do something fun and, full of life and laughter.
I got you.
So I think
no, go ahead, dear.
You just let go. I mean, and it just occurs naturally. It's not force. So naturally it just occurs. And that's why I tell my instructors when I train them, I said, when they come in, they're going to come in one way, but we want them to leave another way. You come in stressed and we want them to leave and then feeling less stressed and sexy. Yeah.
That's so cool. Not to mention the fact, of course, too, I love how you said you put in both the fun and the fabulous into your workouts. So what do you mean by that specifically? Because I'm trying to picture this in her own. I'm like, okay, she's talking fun, she's talking fabulous. All I'm thinking of is tiaras and fuzzy and margaritas or martinis. Well, seriously, I mean, because that's where my mind goes. Me too. Well, that made me sound like a wino again. But no, seriously, when you think fun, fabulous, you're thinking sparkly outfits, you're thinking all this. So put us into your mindset, meaning put us into the gym. And when you're talking about making them fun and fabulous and taking them away to another place, how do you achieve that goal?
So I always say our classes are more of an experience. You know, and earlier we talked about, like, you know, nutrition and fitness, and which is what we do, but it's more about the experience. So when they come in, we want them to set whatever was happening aside and just focus on laughter and having fun, getting fit, and being fabulous. So myself and my instructors I call exertainers. Exercise entertainers.
I love that.
Cute?
That is so cute. That's very cute.
I'm trademarking that, so yeah, it's cute. So exercise entertainers. So we are there to make sure that the class is fun, that you're dancing, that you're laughing. So that's where the fun factor comes in. And then, of course, we want to bring out that goddess, that sexy, that fabulous. So fabulous to me says confidence. It says, you know, I'm full of life and I'm confident and I know who I am and I feel good in my own skin. That's what fabulous says to me. So, and that's what we want to relate to them. We want them to feel that. So every student or party participant that comes through our studio, they have to have fun, because then they'll come back. And then you have to have that fabulous aspect.
Sure. Yeah, that is such a wonderful mentality of things, you know, in terms of that. And plus, too, you've got, I found this interesting. So I have your instructors listed. You've got Erin, Nicole, and Paige. First of all, I was curious when I saw that. I'm like, I understand the mentality, but is there a reason why you don't utilize male instructors? I'm just curious, because I noticed that everyone that you work with is primarily female.
And we had a male instructor, Polga. He's on. I think he's on my website. He's not listed as the instructor, but I think he's a testimonial. And yeah, he was. I've had a couple. Well, he was one of my male interns. And yeah, so he actually teaches pole yoga, but he went back to school to become a nurse, so he left us. So he's studying. Yes, he left the state. He does come back and make an appearance. But he was one of the instructors. But yeah, so but pole, we are gaining more male interest. So I'm hoping at some point we'll have some male instructors, some more male instructors since Tyler left us.
And I wanted to make that, I do want to make that a clear point, just so that this way if somebody's listening in, I don't want anybody to feel like they're excluded as it relates to gender, et cetera, that sort of good stuff.
No.
Now, when you hired on your instructors and brought them onto your team, what is something, or what's a necessity, meaning, for instance, the type of people that you want to employ and work with in the gym, what sort of criteria do you set up for them, meaning that they have to be a miniature Carla? You know what I'm saying? Because I think oftentimes our employees are a testament, a true testament, really, of our energy, of our eclectic way of doing things, et cetera. They represent you in essence. So what is the ideal instructor required to do or be?
So I find instructors from within for the most part. So all of my instructors that are with me now have started as students. So when I first began, it was just me. And I tell you that first couple of years in business, just being me was tremendously difficult. But as an entrepreneur, as a business owner, you know, it's like your baby. And you just don't want to bring in anyone because, again, they represent you and your brand. So I get to know my students who then I thought, oh, you could be a great instructor. And from there, they become instructors. And, for instance, one of my instructors, Nicole, it took 2 years of convincing her. I planted the seed one day, and then I just rewatered it every now and then, saying, oh, you know, it could be, you could make a great instructor. And then finally 2 years later, she calls me and said, "You've been talking about being an instructor?" Yeah. So, and she's one of my best instructors. She's fabulous.
Oh,
But I look for personality as well as teaching skills. Yes. So you have to have a great personality because you are an exertainer, and you're teaching something that people may not be comfortable with doing when they come in. So you can't be intimidating. You have to just have a nice spirit about you. I don't know how else to put it. A nice spirit about you, that you're calming and you're sexy and you're fun.
I love that. That's awesome criteria, actually. So the question is, how many of those does Carla fall into? I'm going to guess all of them, but we're just throwing that out there for anybody that doesn't know.
I would say I'm fun. So and I know where my I know where I don't want to really call it weaknesses, but I know where my shortcomings are. Maybe that I don't feel as comfortable teaching. Like I'm not a technical teacher. So like Erin and Paige are competitors. They are pole dance competitors. So technical, I will. They teach all level classes. You go teach the level classes. They are fabulous at that. I am more, I know where my specialty lies, which is parties, entertaining, making people experience something. That's where my focus is. But we do have the technical portion that Paige and Siren do.
Nice. Very nice.
And we all have our alter ego names. So you'll hear me say Siren, Erin. We all have our alter ego names.
That is so funny. Oh, my God. This is the coolest experience. I'm just listening to this, and I'm like, oh, my God, how awesome. Now, one of the things that I thought was really cool is that you not only offer the option to do home classes, but also owning your own business. So can you talk a bit about both of those entities, meaning that how does it work if somebody wants to have an actual home class option and set that up, and then owning their own franchise? How does that work?
So, yes, so we're super excited. 2018, we have a new website just devoted to the entrepreneurial side of that. So we're very excited about that. But so we call them Stiletto Gyms. Okay. So let me back up. I don't want to get the audience confused. So we offer parties, like girls' night out parties, bachelorette parties in our studio. We also get requested a lot to go out to people's homes, or like a couple of weeks ago, I just did one at a hotel. So a group of girls got together for a bachelorette party. They were all in from out of town. They got a suite at a hotel, and I went there. So what we do is we'll go there, and we will do a chair dance routine with them. So it's essentially like a direct sales type business. So they would call me. I would say, okay, you have 8 girls. I'm going to be, you're going to be at this specific location. We'll go there, teach them some chair dance, lap dance type routines that the bride can maybe use, on her honeymoon. And it's just, girls' night having fun. And then we leave. So we get such requests for this. And I know that we get girls in from out of town all the time, like smaller towns around us, like Arkansas and Iowa. So they all come in. They want to do this because there's no studios in their area. So we have devised a plan and a program that we will train girls in different areas, whether they're in Iowa or New York or Chicago or, wherever they are. We will train them to teach our chair dance classes in people's homes or community centers or, hotels, wherever these girls are gathering. And we will go there. So think Zumba meets passion parties.
So, I'm getting that, though. That's cool.
Okay, so if you think like a Zumba class, like, the license program of a Zumba class, right? I get trained to teach my Zumba, and I go to wherever to teach it, okay? Or I have a passion party business, so I sell this in people's homes. So I say think Zumba and Passion Party mixed together.
Gotcha. Okay.
So it's like a
and that
direct
runs
sales division. Yes.
Well, I'm just
direct
sitting here and I'm
division.
thinking,
Mm-hmm.
how often do you, because one of the things that's resonating in my head, that somebody that would be so benefited by this, and I'm assuming that you do this already, and maybe you don't, I would think one of the categories of women that would need this most would be someone like a breast cancer patient, someone who's had a mastectomy, someone who's had serious, significant sexual trauma, etc. So I'm just curious to ask you, of your clientele, is there one specific category that you work with the most, clientele-wise, in terms of situationally, or people that request you most often in terms of that?
Breast cancer, definitely. I have one of my students, she's become a dear friend, who came in because of that reason. She had a couple issues going on. She had just had breast cancer and had undergone surgery, and she was going through a divorce. It was double, breast cancer and divorce.
Goodness. Oh, good God.
And I remember she came in. I was teaching the class before, so her class was following mine. So she had walked in. I saw her walk in, and I made eye contact with her because there were several ladies walking in, and she said at that point she thought about turning and running away because this was completely out of her comfort zone. But she stayed, taught the class, and it's funny because at the beginning of the class, just to get people out of their minds, I'll say, think about your alter ego name. What's your alter ego name? We're going to be somebody else for a moment, just to get them out of their mind. And so she couldn't come up with one, and I said, I'm going to call you Ginger.
Oh, my God.
And to this day, I call her Ginger. And and it's funny. But her testimony just of how the classes and the encouragement of other women and just feeling free and alive has helped her. She has a clean bill of health from her doctor. She's doing well on the cancer side. She since has remarried to a wonderful man. I went to her wedding last year. I flew out to Vegas for her wedding last year. So I've seen her from walking in as a broken woman to feeling confident, getting healthy and finding the love of her life.
That's so sweet. Oh, my gosh. How very touching.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
I want to cover some of the other things here that the gym offers, clearly, because we don't want to forget to mention that, because we were talking about some of the classes here. So I want to mention a few things. First of all, let's do on the one side of the fence. I know you've done things like a pop-up pool party. You've done sexy bridal events. You have done, as you mentioned, the polka right there. So let's back up a little bit. Obviously, the bridal event is kind of a foregone. Just like one of the other things I was thinking about was, do you ever have parties where girls get together, meaning like a combined naughty party and pool party? You know what I mean? Like you have those trying to remember, the romance people, you know what I mean? Like they decide they want to have a party and kind of combine that. Can you do something like that?
Yeah, and we normally do those outside the studio.
Oh, okay.
So, like I was talking earlier, when we're going to begin to, partner with other ladies and get them trained to teach our classes to go into people's homes, that's when we normally do the combo. In our studio, because we're so busy and it's back-to-back, we normally just do pool parties or chair parties because on the weekends we book solid. And generally, like those passion parties take a little longer. That's more on the side of the in-home party stuff that we'll combine those two.
Sure. I gotcha. I understand. Now let's talk about this. Sexy at 6, which I can't qualify. Triple play, and then, of course, Workshop Wednesdays. I know, I'm so not about the sexy factor. I get it. Okay, so Workshop Wednesdays and Triple play. Can you explain those? Because those are a little less self-explanatory. I want folks to understand what that is exactly.
Yes. So Workshop Wednesdays is every Wednesday we have a different class or workshop. So we feature something different every Wednesday. So it gives people a variety. So it also is a way to introduce new people to the studio. So, for instance, tomorrow night, our workshop Wednesday, we're very excited about. We're partnering with a massage therapist in town, and we're doing 45 minutes of polga, which is pole yoga, and then we have 15 minutes of relaxation and visualization. And I will lead the group through relaxation as she goes around and does neck and foot massages on everyone.
Oh,
and then we're going to toast to our sexy, fabulous, calm selves at the very end with some champagne and wine.
Oh, my gosh, how cool is that?
Yes.
That's awesome.
So
now you've indicated – oh, I'm sorry. I was just going to ask, because you've indicated that your classes typically go by level. So, like, if somebody approaches you tomorrow and says, okay, Carla, I want to take this class, these are my goals, etc. So how do you assess at what level you start them out at? How does that get determined?
So we have two types of classes. I guess we have level classes, level 1 and level 2 and 3. So those are our more technical-based classes. Most of our classes are multi-level. So, for instance, on Monday night, our pole yoga, is anyone can come in. We have a Sensual at Sunset pole dance class on Thursday nights, which is geared for any level because it's more sexy, fluid dancing. That Saturday morning triple play that you mentioned earlier, that's 3 classes. So it's polka, chair dance, lap dance, and pole. So it's a 2-hour class, and that's geared for any level. So I come from the traditional fitness world. You know, I used to teach kickboxing and cycle, and so I come from that world. So in that world, if you're going to like 24-hour fitness, anyone can go pop into a class because they're any level. So we have to offer those for the vast majority of people, but we offer the level classes for those girls who want to say, oh, you know what, I really like pole. I want to take it to the next level. So then they can join those level classes.
I gotcha. Now, on the flip side of the fence, I know that you do the party angle there, because I know in the past you've done the traditional, what we know of already, which is either a chair or a lap dance, and the themed dance party. But red or black stiletto, explain what that involves, coming to a red or black stiletto party, besides the obvious, which is I'm guessing you have to wear high heels. But once you have that sort of party, what's involved with that? I'm serious, because I'm like, what?
Yeah, so, and that's a common question when they call the book. They'll say, do I have to wear heels? No, because half the women will never put on heels, and that's fine. I just like the name stiletto. But, yeah, so you don't have to wear heels. And even in our classes, half the women will wear heels and the other half won't. It's just something. And some people are all about the heels. I want to wear my heels, and you go for it. But, yeah, so you don't have to wear heels. But the black stiletto is our basic party. So it's $20 per girl, 5-girl minimum. You come in, we teach you a chair dance, lap dance, a pole dance. We all come up with our alter ego names. We do a champagne toast. We do a couple of routines. We have fun. We laugh. We take pictures, make memories. That's the black stiletto. And then the red stiletto is for larger groups. So, if you have 13 or more girls, it's unlimited girls. You have the studio for 2 hours. We take more pictures. We do routines. So, so that's the only difference between the two. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Gotcha. Then the other thing, of course, is on the workshop side of the fence, which would be to some degree something I'm more capable of. So you've got your belly dance thing, you've got the bombshells and burlesque. I love that because I've always said, oh my God, I'd love to try burlesque. Oh wait, that's right, I'm not.
Oh, you should.
Forgot about the not sexy part.
No,
it just sounds like so much fun. Really,
it is.
It does, and it's affordable, kids. I mean, it's not like she's charging $8,000 for this to happen because we're about to get to the price point factor. But bombshells and burlesque. Talk about that a little bit because I'm guessing most women are most intrigued about something like that.
Yes, because burlesque is so old school, you know.
Right.
So I think it's more comfortable because it's more old school.
Correct.
Where people are intimidated by the pole, which I get. But burlesque, anyone at any age can do burlesque at any shape. And again, it's more of the emotional state. You come in, you have fun, you put on boas, and everyone's attracted to boas. So bombshells and burlesque is like old school dancing, old school strip tease almost. So, we get the boas out, we get some gloves out, we put on some fun music, and it's just like a lot of sexy walking and hip thrusting and attitude.
Nice.
And again, I think it's less intimidating than pole dancing.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. For those of us that are a little more shy. And I'm sure we got that's me by now.
Oh, yeah. You
it's really, really cool. That's awesome. The other thing that is really super cool is that you offer...
with your burlesque name.
Okay, she's creeping me out now with the name thing. I didn't want to forget to mention this, that she has got these $20 T-shirts, gym gear actually, on the Stiletto Gym website actually that she has. Sexy, stronger. This year it's awesome. And they're relatively affordable. It's $20, which is not bad at all. I don't want to forget to remind people that the monthly pass is only $60. And then, of course, mornings, meaning Tuesdays and Thursdays, is the $40 charge, of course. I also don't want to forget to ask this. Now, do you carry what they have so-called traditional hours? Do you know what I mean by that? Like, if a person is listening today and they're like, okay, well, only, my schedule only works here and here. How does that work exactly? How do you get them placed properly?
So I encourage them to call. It's easier. I mean, we can email, but a lot of times I'm old school. I like that conversation.
I
so
do
email,
big time.
Yeah, email or call because it's just easier that way. And then I can kind of get a feel of what you're looking for. So if I'm looking, I can only come on Saturdays and Mondays. Okay, why don't you try this and this? This might work for you.
Okay.
If somebody is out of state listening to us and they're like, hey, I would really like to do that, right after the first of the year, I would encourage you to keep look on our website and, Facebook page, social media, because we'll tell you how you can get involved with the Stiletto Gym, even if you live outside the city. But again, a phone call, an email, hey, I'm interested in doing this, I've always wanted to bring this to my city. How can you help me? Yeah.
Oh, that's very cool. Before I forget to ask, that was my obvious. Have you reached out to, because I assume you're you, so you know this already, but have you thought about collaborating or approached the Stilettos on Steel?
No.
Oh, my God, you're joking, right? Do you know what the Stilettos on Steel are? Oh, my God.
No. Oh, I love you.
Listen to me right now. Okay, this is what you're going to do. When you get off the radio with me, which will be shortly because I feel so bad. Can you believe you've done this for an hour? Doesn't it just go so fast?
Oh, my gosh,
I'm like, oh, my God,
no.
we're already over an hour. Well, I feel bad because I have another guest coming on. So I'm like, okay, I have to flip-flop gears here.
I understand.
But there are a couple different organizations that are out there that you can work with. Stilettos on Steel is an all-female riders group because I ride a Harley, and now I'm a backseat rider. And there are women that ride Harleys on stilettos. They're not the only brand, though, actually. There's another agency that I know called Open Road Angels. Julie Banashek runs it. It's her place. They all wear stilettos as well. They're not stilettos on steel, but the reality is if you're looking at franchising and doing something, I bet they'd be all over that. She's like a total sex kitten, Julie B. I'm just throwing that out there as an option. I'm not your manager, but I'm just thinking to myself, hey, so there's my surprise of the day for you. I'm going to hook you up with Julie Banashek, owner of the Open Road Angels, and we can see what we can do for business. I want to read off, please, Carla, all the different ways to find you, and when I get finished, you can let me know if I've missed anything. Carla is her name. It's Carla Mock. I'm not even going to do her middle name because I don't even know how to deal with that Italian name. I can't even say it. I don't even know where it came from. But this is lovely Carla with a C.
Name. Yeah,
I know it is, but I'm not even going to try it. It's Carla, and it's M-O-C-K is the last name. Stiletto Gym. Here's the website. It is thestilettogym.com. That is also the same name on Facebook and Instagram. She is on YouTube. She is on LinkedIn, Google Plus, and Pinterest. She also has a YouTube channel, which I mentioned, obviously, because it's on my Facebook page. And, of course, divasdancingfordivas.com. And she is located in Raytown, Missouri. I didn't want to forget to mention that because I know I had mentioned Kansas City, but it's Raytown, Missouri is specifically where Stiletto is. Any other place where folks can find you?
Correct. That's right. And they can.
Okay, I just want to make sure I didn't miss anybody.
Yes. Mm-hmm. Yes. Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And they can always call the studio as well. Yeah.
That's right. Or email, like she said. Or just look her up.
Correct.
Look at her name's Carla. I'm pretty sure she's not going to care if you personal message her because she is on Facebook. If you look at her personal page, you're probably going to get ill too because she's so damn pretty and smart. She's got a body, and I'm all like, yay, can't wait to interview her.
Well,
and
thank you.
very quickly. Well, of course, before I forget, this is the last part of my show, and I do this all the time. The surprise, of course, is, as you know already, I'm going to hook you up with Julie, and, of course, a way to get a hold of the Stilettos on Steel so you can not only improve your business. I would like to speak off camera to try to find out if we can incorporate you in one of my films. I'm doing 4 films in the course of 2 years, and I think that your facility could be great not only for filming within the course of it, but you can speak within the course of my documentary. So I'd like to talk about that, obviously, as far as that goes. Third of all, the very last thing I want to do, because I do need to get to John and move along, is not only to say thank you so much to Ethel with Rebel Vision Marketing, because without Ethel, you and I would not have met, and she's absolutely right. She told me she is going to be a doll. You're going to love her. She's absolutely right. Ethel, I absolutely adore her. And I absolutely adore Ethel. Ethel is like my favorite social media / everything. She's beautiful. She's sweet. She's talented. She's funny. And I'm trying to talk her into being in my movie. So the next time you talk to her, be like, Ethel, you totally have to do this. That's right. I'm calling you out right now, girl. Thank you. So my last 60 seconds here is just to give you a real quick thought on what I think of you. I always do this because the listening audience, anybody can research you, but the reality of the situation is you're much more than a gym. You're much more than a this or that. So just so you folks know, these are my overall impressions of Carla. This is what I think of you, and this is the only part that's not scripted, by the way. So I was told right from the start that I was going to have you on the show. I did a bunch of research about you prior to your November event, as a matter of fact. And the first thing that I discovered in looking in your face was that you have this little twinkle in your eye. I don't know if you noticed this or not. And my venture to guess on that is that's because you carry your husband in your eyes, and that spirit and that soul and that happiness and that free to be you feeling starts in your eyes and radiates to the rest of you. You sound so jovial and jubilant and so free and so warm and so full of yourself in the best way. You know who you are. You sound very grounded. You sound very excited about the possibility of helping someone through the art of dance, through the art of physical fitness, and through the art of making their mental mind feel strong and sexy. I commend you so much for your efforts to help so many women out there that you've never met more than once or twice in your lifetime. I think that you're absolutely a beautiful person from start to finish. Any woman that lives and breathes and survives the loss of someone so monumental should be congratulated. The fact that you came to my show, I feel very honored that we spent this much time together. Know that I will come and bug you in Missouri. That is if I ever have time, because I do have to slow things down. So it'll be next year, I'm sure. But one of the coolest parts of getting to talk to you is you're really not as scary as I thought, because you scared the hell out of me when I saw your picture. I'm like, I can't do this. But you didn't bite, and you didn't yell at me. And I think it went okay.
And you just did something so wonderful for my soul. Thank you so much for the opportunity, for allowing me to be on your show and to do what you do. I truly am grateful and truly appreciate it. Yeah.
That's so sweet of you. And do make sure that you let Ethel know, or have us obviously we're Facebook friends, but let's get coordinated in terms of talking to one another on, collaborating, like I was talking about and such. Okay. I would welcome that opportunity. I think that would be absolutely wonderful. Yep, definitely. So stay in touch, and please feel free to come back anytime. I'm more than happy to have you back anytime.
Thank you. I appreciate it, and I can't wait for our future time together.
I know, right? Yeah. I know, it's so exciting, but definitely make sure you reach out to her, because I got to get you that contact information, and hopefully it'll expedite you some business. I'd really appreciate that. That'd be great.
Okay.
All right,
I appreciate it. Thank you so much. Have a wonderful day, and have a great next interview.
Thank you. I'll talk to you soon. Bye-bye.
All right. Thanks.
Okay, now here we go. Round 2 with Mr. John Kinross. I'm so excited I can't stand it. Do I have John?
Hello.
Oh, my gosh, John, you and I finally meet for the first time. I'm so excited. I'm sorry it's taken so long. I apologize.
Not at all.
Oh, my gosh. Well, I'm a little bit nervous. I was reading your biography, and I was reading about your book and all the various different things you've done. So I have a bunch of different questions for you, not just relative to the book, but about yourself, if that's okay.
Okay.
First of all, in case folks that are listening and don't know, you have a very strong background in both as a financial consultant and a forensic accountant. Okay, whenever I think forensic, I'm thinking a dead body lying around somewhere, but yet there is such a thing as a forensic accountant. So explain to me a little bit, what exactly is a forensic accountant? What does that mean?
Forensic, of course, you're right. It's digging into the past. And digging up all the skeletons in the closet, sort of thing. So, as a forensic accountant, takes all the past numbers and delves into them and tries to find more and more and more as to what went on in the past, as a harbinger of the future, of course, so that I can develop answers to questions the judge may have in court, and then I take those answers into court with a report and testify so that the judge can make decisions based on my testimony.
I gotcha. Okay. And just so I understand this, let's backtrack a little bit, because John at one time was like a young man in his 20s and probably saying to myself, I can't wait to grow up and be a forensic accountant. I'm guessing probably not, because I don't think a whole lot of people do that. So, but you know what I'm saying? It's so unique and out of the ordinary. I guess I'm fascinated or curious about it. So at what point in your journey, in terms of educationally and otherwise, did you say, yeah, this is something really interesting to me, or I want to try this?
Well, that's fun. Fun thing, actually. It's a question of taking your hobby into your profession. And my hobby was building houses with a master builder on the side, just for the fun and the experience. And I was doing the accounting for it, and finally it got ahead of me. So when I retired from the Navy, I said, well, let me try this for real. So I learned how to be an accountant, got licensed, and became an auditor. And then because of all the things you learn as an auditor, delving into the reason why the numbers are this way, that morphed into forensics, which is finding the actual numbers yourself rather than just being given to you.
Sure. Oh, sure. No, I understand. Now, on the flip side of the fence, when we talk about financial consulting, now, do you do this were you doing this on an independent basis, or do you work with a firm, or where did you get your bulk of background in that area?
Well, I was always an independent contractor allied with another famous firm here in Orange County, anyways, Amazon and Associates, who are very big into forensic accounting. And so I hung my shingle out with them for 15 years or so. Mm-hmm. And when you say consulting, really it's related to my tax practice. All the fallout you get from filing people's taxes. That's where that sort of consulting came in.
Gotcha. Now, since you brought up the magic word taxes, and considering some of us are looking forward to that, yay, in the next 30 or 60 days, I say very sarcastically. Yes. I like to tip people's brains on this in terms of when you're speaking to somebody nowadays, because you have much more knowledge in this area than most of us. We live in a very different world in the almost 2018 versus years and years and years ago. And I sometimes ask myself, have the tax laws almost become much more stringent and less solid these days? If I were to ask you that question, what would your assessment be of that?
Well, this latest round of changes that we're going to see in 2018 will simplify a lot of things. I'm certain.
Really? Huh.
Yes, it'll almost eliminate Schedule A, because the standard deduction is now so high that it will overcome anything you can generate on Schedule A. That is your home mortgage deduction, charity, taxes, etc. But we're getting into taxes instead of what we're supposed to be talking about here.
Oh, sorry. Okay, so clearly that's some of your background as far as that goes. Now, here's my question for you. I would venture to guess when somebody is like yourself testifying like you were talking about in terms of the forensic side of things, when you're going into court and you're attesting for things such as that, I would imagine that you're kind of stereotyped sometimes. Like, for instance, when I saw how your husband screws you in divorce, I'm thinking to myself, I wonder if this man is a fan of the male audience or not, because I can imagine some people might view you in not the best light. Do you know what I'm saying?
Well, quite so. That's the kind of a headline on the book, but the back cover also has another title. This book is unique, and it doesn't follow normal rules for books. It has a second title, and that is How to Bulletproof Your Marriage. And that's the real message in the book, because all the lessons you learn along the way in the courtroom about how your husband's trying to screw you in divorce will show what should have happened, and then that's the message in the book. This is how you bulletproof your marriage. And I give checklists throughout the book, which shows you, for example, brides. I heard your prior speaker talking about brides wanting to do certain things. Well, they should also read this book and find the pre-marriage checklist in this book as to all the things they should be doing before they even hit the altar.
Right, and I was just going to say that. That's one of the things on my list here is the pre-marriage checklist. Now, what, out of all the things that are on the checklist to begin with, if I were to ask you some of the most important fundamental things that women should keep in mind when they're putting this checklist together before they even decide to say, I do, what are two of the top things that you would recommend to women?
Mindset that the traditional wife is no longer, there's no longer a head of household. Marriage these days is a partnership, and you've got to be an equal partner. And in order to do that, you should have your name on all the assets that the marriage has. And it's a normal thing in marriage, when you first get married, you start accumulating things. You buy a washer and a dryer first of all, and then you move up, and eventually you're hoping to get a house or a condo or something, and then you may start a business and so on. But all along the way, the wife's name should be on or part of all the assets, including the family business that are in the estate, than in the marriage estate. You see, that makes her an equal partner, and that sets the mindset for the whole marriage. And if that's the case, if the marriage is such that the both are equal partners, it makes a very strong bond, because the fundamental cause in most divorces, not all of course, but most divorces, the fundamental cause is arguments over financial matters or how to treat. And this leads to other reasons for divorce, like infidelity and like rejection and so on. But that's the fundamental thing. So if you can solve that, you can break down the divorce rate. I'm hoping to get it down by 25% within 5 years. Right now it's 50%. Where I live, it's higher than that. So,
well, that's oh my gosh, that's so overwhelming just to hear that number, the 50% divorce rate. I mean, obviously, clearly that means half the people are obviously not making that. I have a piggyback question to the checklist we're just referring to. Thoughts in terms of women going through with a prenuptial agreement, because back in the day I'd heard this for quite some time. There was this fad, if you will, where all these women were just so insistent. Now I hear women like, no, there's no way, because some of us feel that, that's a document that's basically outlining, I don't trust you. So if somebody were to come to you and ask you this, what would you recommend?
Well, first of all, it really applies to people who have assets going into the marriage. If you're coming in broke, I wouldn't even bother. But prenup, you want to isolate what property you have from the marital estate for a lot of reasons, not just divorce, but all the things that can break up a marriage, like a bankruptcy and so on. So to do that, you should have a prenup, but if not, if you think that's a little bit crass, do a statement of financial condition or just a balance sheet of your assets all by yourself.
Okay.
And then sign it and notarize it, and then give it to your attorney or someone, your patron or somebody who keep it, so that whenever it's needed, God forbid, it's there. You see, and it serves the same purpose. I've seen it work in bankruptcy court. I've seen it work.
Well, I also.
Sorry?
Well, No, that's okay. I just had a question relative to that because I'm listening to this and I'm thinking a couple of these things that you're talking about, like especially a premarital agreement or the other contract, a list is simple because you can make that at home. Things such as a premarital agreement along with other forms, as we all know, require an attorney of some sort. Now, for those that are a bit gun-shy in terms of utilizing the legal system and or an attorney to put these things together, is some of this be self-expedited without having to hire and retain an attorney and keep them on call, et cetera?
Oh, sure. You don't need an attorney for a statement of financial condition. Your accountant can do it, or even you can do it. You just write down all your assets, and then you put a copy of the deed together, and then you notarize it and say, okay, who's going to keep this for me? And then years later, you know, you may or may not need it because there's 5 different reasons that break up marriage other than divorce. And one of them, one of those 6 is liable to get you, and certainly death in the end does get you. So.
You bet. When we look at the dynamic in terms of married couples, just in your opinion and in your experience in terms of doing this book and speaking to people, is there such a thing as a dynamic, meaning they're a particular age bracket in terms of strongest marriage or those most likely to make a success story? Because I know it's difficult to assess that with a 50% rate, but do you know what I mean? Do you find that it's easier or a little less intricate at a certain age or demographic, or the older people versus millennials getting married? You follow?
Oh yes. Definitely you have the best chance the younger you start, I think, you know, because there are stats which are in my book on second marriages, and the divorce rate in second marriage is 70%.
Oh, my gosh.
Yeah. That's really desperate.
That's huge.
And of course,
yes, it is.
Look what that does to parenting. So that's one of the fundamental reasons, I think, why America is going through such a distemper right now, is there's so much anger around it. And wouldn't good parenting solve a lot of that?
Yes, I would think, or one would hope anyways. Or those of us that, well, not my case, but I know someone who's been married 3 different times, et cetera. So as the number goes up, is some of this still going to be vital to them, meaning that after so many times of getting married, is there really a way to protect yourself at some point?
Well, yes. Each time you get married, start over.
Okay. I see what you mean. So the rules can still apply.
Go through the checklist. That's right. Yes, right, because knowing going into a second marriage, knowing that the chances of divorce are 70%, you really got to try and bulletproof this marriage. How do you do that?
You betcha.
Start over, checklist 1.
I gotcha. Now, you talk about something called the doomsday plan, and I know, folks, that sounds awful, and it's probably not the greatest term. I mean, I guess it's hard because that automatically suggests a darker scenario. Can you talk a bit about your doomsday plan idea to the folks, let them know what you mean by that and what's involved with putting that together?
Yes. The doomsday plan is just in case one of those 5 different scenarios happens and you find yourself out of a husband or out of marriage. And this applies to dual earners too, by the way, which is more and more.
Okay.
Actually, it's a book for guys too, you know, really. But the doomsday plan is just to have a couple of things out there that if the worst happens, if husband gets run over by a bus or something, you've got an immediate plan provide you with cash and an escape plan if you need it.
Okay.
It's just insurance, really. You know, you have house insurance. Take some marriage insurance.
Oh, my gosh, marriage insurance, if there is such a thing. My God, that would be lovely, wouldn't it?
Yeah.
Now, we want to talk about different scenarios, meaning, for instance, in the case of separation, like if you have a couple that's married and then they decide to do a separation versus a legal separation, does that make a bit of difference? Are there things that folks should be cognizant of if they decide, I'm not going to go to court and make this legal? We're just going to spend time apart. Does that matter legally, et cetera, in terms of how much risk is involved with that?
Well, it matters more in a community property state than it does in a equitable distribution state. There's, 7 or 9 community property states? If you're still married, legally, all your property is in one big pot, you see. So you've got to take that into consideration. And even unless it's a legal separation, there you have to file something with the court to do that. And if you are in a separated or thinking of having a temporary separation and it gets long, I would really do that, make it a legal separation, because it breaks the community bond, and then your property is affected such that you can lay claim to your own half or your own property in the first place. But
I gotcha.
If you've read the checklist and you've already bulletproof your marriage, you're never going to be in that state.
Right.
You want to increase the bond between you and your mate so that just divorce is just not even an option. You don't even think about it.
Correct. Well, we all hope that that's never the case, too. And so the more that you can do to prevent that, the much better place you're going to be in, clearly.
Yes.
A lot of times I've heard this before from males and females both, in terms of as things go and progress along to the more negative, and if you're heading towards divorce, one of the things that's common is, of course, to hide a lot of the personal assets, so in a way so one cannot claim versus the other, et cetera. How much of an issue is that, or in order to just flat out protect those physical assets, let's say, for instance, that you have? Talk a bit about that. Is that just preparation ahead of time, in advance, under the presumption that someone will go after this, or do you wait? How long? I mean, how do you know at what point that you're in real danger of losing all those assets?
Well, that's a very good question, because this is what generated the book, because most of the ladies who got into court in my cases had no idea what was going on, and it was hard to dig up what was there. So, of course, you've got to fundamentally start by knowing on day one exactly who has what and what they're doing with it. And anything in this community is jointly controlled. So had the individual done that, they'll be much better prepared if, in the worst case, you do end up in divorce court. And I have a little checklist for that, too. If you're in the red zone, I call it, the marriage is breaking down. You should do things like, if it's really broken down, file first for divorce, and get an order for interim support right away. Get a good lawyer, one that suits your personality. There's 2 kinds of lawyers, bulldog and bulldog who will chew the other side up, and the one who wants to settle. So you get a lawyer that suits your personality and your aim in a divorce.
I understand.
Yeah.
Now,
and a couple of other things that you do.
If we talk about personal income, one of the things one of the things that we include in terms of hiding personal income, when we talk about that, we look at things also like, I know that there are some marriages that have had, how do they handle things if you have a situation where some property or some other assets or things that they own in terms of non-physical property, or I should say, let me retrace, international things. Let's say you're living in the United States and you happen to marry somebody who keeps a ton of property in the Cayman Islands or whatever have you. How does that change the game at all?
Well, it changes the game this way. It makes it very difficult for a forensic accountant to find it or for your lawyer to get control of it. So so that's why it's so important to start at day one, because you can sniff these things out as you go. If the mate is putting money overseas, you'll know that there's things disappearing off the company bank account. Things like that. So you've got to be proactive in the finances of the marriage, both sides. And, it's got to be totally open. I know. I still talk to a lot of guys who have the old-fashioned view of my wife doesn't need to know anything, I control it all. No, that's the old way. And that's to the point where we are now, because women in this Me Too era are not going to stand for that anymore. And it's all part of women coming out of being the traditional life and taking part in the man's world as a 50-50 partner. And it's tough. And it's a constant struggle. It's not over by any means yet. So in order to make yourself a partner, you've really got to be proactive, because the male naturally wants to dominate, you see. So
I get it. I do. Well, and the other part of the equation is that they don't, if you sit down before you decide to get married and you kind of lay all of this out ahead of time, would it almost be better to walk in knowing, I guess if they won't disclose to you, I mean, what happens if you have a partner from the get-go that's really kind of frigid about following through with giving information and things like that? If they're maybe just kind of staunch and I'm just not going along with this full disclosure of information, what does one do at that point? Are they just kind of at a crossroads?
That's a crossroads, and you can bet that you're in the 50%. You have a 50% chance of getting divorced within 5 years if you go into a marriage that way, because at some point you're going to have disagreement over the finances or how the marriage is run, or who's paying for what, and so on. That leads to other disagreements. So if you have to go in it with your eyes open, fine. If you want to go into that, fine. But it makes it all more important to have a doomsday plan. It makes it all more important to know what to do. If you get in the red zone, you got to know what to do right away. So it's all in the book. Checklists all along the way to guide you.
And when women are sitting down and thinking to themselves, as we're talking a lot about husbands and wives and finances and assets, things to remember in terms of the children, any bullet points or something that people tend to not remember as it relates to that? Because obviously you're talking about the future of your children, like you mentioned.
Well, absolutely. And that's why I'm so much desperate to reduce this divorce rate, because of parenting, obviously. But this is not a book about custody. There are other books about that, and I give some references in the book about that. But the thing that I say not to do is don't use the children as pawns in the court, and don't badmouth daddy, because it just raises attention enormously. It has a deleterious effect on the kids, and also it's going to drive up your fees. Believe me, conflict in the courtroom just drives up the fees enormously. So my advice is very simple. Just leave the kids out of it.
Gotcha.
Just because when do your explaining. You have to explain them dispassionately what's going on. Daddy and I are separating, and just keep it low key.
Sure, I understand. Now, you talk about how one of the things or one of the goals that you have is that through this book you talk about how husbands can help to empower wives by doing some of the things that you've suggested. Talk about that a little bit in terms of, do you feel that, or even I should ask, have you gotten the male feedback in terms of, when a man sees a title called How Your Husband Screws You in Divorce, I imagine there might be some blowback from that, or maybe not so much positive feedback coming from the males, but how do they respond to some of your suggestions, or how is that going across?
Well, it's amazing. I discovered it's quite the reverse. I've got so many guys coming to me to get into the checklist, the pre-marriage checklist particularly, so they know how to bond with the wife, because they're madly in love with the girl at this point. They obviously want to do that. So I've had a lot of requests for this book from guys to know who want to reverse engineer it, so to speak, and go into it fairly. So it's really, I suppose, I hadn't anticipated that, but it's really a book for both guys and for mutual, especially for mutual earners and millennials, CPAs. That's what we see all the time. They both got to go into it doing the same thing. So
sure.
all the guys I've talked to like it. Believe it or not.
That's interesting.
Yeah.
That's a little out of the norm, or a little what I would have expected. Now, we also have another scenario to cover, which is the opposite side of the fence, meaning if you have a husband and wife that get married, there's always the occasion where you have a spouse that's not working. Either they get laid off, they get unemployed, or you have a mom who's at home taking care of the children, etc. So in those circumstances where you have something like that, what would you address in terms of how would you speak to somebody for proper preparation, like some of the things you're suggesting? How can you vamp that to fit, because your dynamic's a little bit different there?
Oh, they are, so that the earning spouse has to take the lead in ensuring that checklist number 1 is followed to the letter. That's what that means. So
gotcha.
Roles are reversed.
Okay.
So
I get that.
Yeah.
Also, have you had any consideration of, in terms of, and this is just a thought, because in 2017 we're also noticing more merging of marriages between same sexes or capacities like that, and the law sometimes can be very different as it relates to those marriages. How have you considered that, or do you touch on that within the book? Because maybe I didn't see that, or maybe that's something you don't cover.
I think I put a one-liner in there. I said that both partners should consider themselves subject to this book, or at least that is to say, would be to their advantage to take it as if they were the bride. In other words, they want to bond this relationship. And the way to do it is to follow the advice, follow the checklist. In fact, yes, I've had experience with a couple of couples that way, and they just love the pre-marriage checklist because
oh my goodness,
they're still together.
That's sweet. Very sweet, actually. Another question relative to this, when we talk about wives wanting to protect their finances, but the other scenario is this. We probably should mention, I guess, to some degree, infidelity. If that comes into play, or other circumstances, or criminal activities, things along those lines, if you're marrying somebody who is already a criminal element, let's say, because that happens in my realm a lot, is there any protection in essence?
It may result in an IRS levy of some sort. So I give one story in the book about that very thing.
Okay.
Where the wife was nailed for the husband's gambling winnings. He never reported, and then they got divorced, and she spent years paying off his gambling debt because it occurred at the time when they were married. They filed jointly. So the advice there, if you're at all worried about what your spouse is up to, then file separately. And if he's worried too, you can say, look, we need one of us has got to be clean so that the lien doesn't fall on both of us. And if I file separately, then I'm clean. The IRS is not going to come after me for your debts, you see.
Gotcha.
And the IRS, even in community property states, the IRS so far has not come after a wife who has filed separately.
Okay. Now, I'm just curious to ask this because I haven't seen you perform in court, obviously. If you've taken this kind of vast knowledge into a courtroom over a significant amount of years, I would venture to guess that you're successful 95% of the time. I'm just curious.
Well, yeah. Well, of course, I like to say that my record is impeccable, like any forensic accountant would say that. But I'll tell you what one judge told me. He said, John, if I were the judge and you were the forensic accountant in my case, I would recuse myself. I said, why is that, Your Honor? He said, because I believe every word you said.
Oh, my goodness. Listen to that. That's neat, though.
Well, I like to keep it balanced, and the only thing is that if there's any question, you give the benefit of the doubt to your own client rather than the other client. That's the only bias that you ever have. So I don't like to be biased in court. I just come straight down the middle and say it like what it is for the numbers. In fact, I'm due in court in about an hour on a divorce case.
Okay.
And I have the number already.
Okay, I gotcha. Now, I've seen some of the feedback, obviously, from females and read all the different things and some of the wonderful words that they use to describe the book clearly. Obviously, of course, how your husband screws you in divorces in a number of different places. So I was curious to ask you in terms of, because I'm a writer myself, when you decided that you wanted to up and do this book, clearly we all know that sometimes writing a book doesn't take a day or a week, et cetera. How long was the whole process for you? Because I'm guessing there was some research involved, et cetera.
Well, it occurred over several years, actually, as it kind of developed. One of my tax clients was a lady who is a publisher of 5 magazines, including Women's Professional Magazine, Mona Lisa Ferris. And so I was doing her tax returns, and then sometimes she said, look, you're in court. Let's have lunch, and let's chat some more about this, because this is great stuff. I love this stuff. So I tell her the story of the latest thing that happened in court, and after over 6 months or a year or so, she said, John, this is incredible. These girls are really getting screwed. You've got to write a book. And so we started putting it together, and so she got an editor for me and a typesetter and that sort of thing. And finally, we, over 2 or 3 years, I guess, we almost have a book that's ready to go either this month or January.
Okay. I was just going to ask that question because I know in December, early December, you were saying how, we're getting ready, it's going to be all set, but I wasn't quite sure if there was a specific deadline or something they gave you that, or if you're going to have a release party actually, because sometimes people write a book and then they'll have a big event, et cetera. Are you going to have a formal gathering and then do a book signing, et cetera, to launch it, or?
Yes, we'll have a launch, and we haven't set a date because we still have 1 or 2 wrinkles to sort out, mostly to do with illustrations and that sort of thing. We have a wonderful illustrator from England who does illustrations for Vogue and like that. So they're really fashion conscious.
That's cool.
Illustrations. You're going to like them.
I imagine so, definitely.
Anyway, we're almost there within a week of finalizing the text, and then we can set a date late in December. We thought it would be done now, but of course these things never happen that quickly, do they?
Of course.
So it'll
Tell
probably
me about it.
So.
Oh, I got it. Now, I'm curious. This is another good question. So have any of the people that you work with, meaning that obviously when you're in court, you can't walk up to a judge and say, hey, judge, by the way, did you want to read this book and tell me your thoughts? Did you consult or confer with actual judges, et cetera, or people that practice law in making the book outside of just, obviously, all your expertise, et cetera? Were those consultants or people that you conferred with?
Yes. Yes, I did. I had an old friend of mine who is a family law attorney go through the whole thing and saved me from a few clangers and put me right on a couple of points of law and so on. So it has been vetted that way. I didn't run it by a judge because I'm so in awe of judges. I don't want to kind of put them in a spot where they're, where they don't want to be. So a judge hasn't seen it yet.
Okay, I get you. Well, I understand. I do, definitely. Actually, one of the things I thought about when I was thinking about when she sent it over to me and the information on your book, I was like, I wonder if you could make like a comedic, and I don't mean to downplay this whatsoever because I realize the severity of everything you're talking about, but I could have seen this playing out in some kind of a short film or like a documentary film, like maybe putting this to film and showing it to women and saying, hey, bringing it into a format where they could watch it on film and instead or in lieu of reading it or in addition to reading it and then seeing a lot of these tips and recommendations in front of them. Have you given that any thought? Just a thought.
I have. I've had one approach to do a series, on each story.
Oh, right.
And
okay.
But let's get the book out and get it in the hands of people before we go down that road.
I don't blame you. No, I do. But obviously there's a lot of times when people do a book, then they do like a web series or a TV series, and they do film. So you know what I'm talking about. I getcha. So once the book is out, I'm guessing it will be Amazon, Goodreads, Barnes & Nobles, all the traditional social media places as well as your website?
Yes. Amazon, you have to sell it through Amazon for the first 6 months, I think. So it'll be strictly Amazon. And if Amazon may want to put it into Barnes & Noble and so on, whatever they want to do with it. So that's fine. They do a wonderful job.
Oh, yeah, they do, actually. Okay.
Yeah, and then hopefully this is not just a book for brides. It's a book for grandmothers and aunts and anyone who has a child or a niece or a godchild, so that they can advise them on these things. So we've got to reduce the divorce rate. We must bring down the divorce rate. We must have better parenting and happier people.
Without a doubt. Yeah, one step at a time and a little bit of happy one step at a time, that's for sure. I agree with you 150%, obviously. And I applaud your efforts because obviously anything that relates to keeping two people together and happy or families together is a very big thing. It's tough nowadays with our social situation to begin with. And then when you think about all the dynamics involved with divorce, it's really tough. It's challenging. And I applaud you just for even doing a book. I've done 4. I know how hard it is. It's a lot of work and the marketing. It's a whole world in and of itself just doing books, isn't it? And media and all this good stuff. It's tough. I applaud anybody who tries this and gets it out there and works with people. That's wonderful. The work that you're doing is very well accepted from the reviews I've read so far. I'm excited, actually, for you to launch. I obviously have read the book already because it was sent to me, and it's a wonderful piece of literature that I will keep, assuming that I ever go to the Mirror Dial, which I haven't visited in quite some time. I don't know if I will, but we'll see. Now, before I forget, if somebody is listening in today, do you consult with people privately? So let's say somebody listens today in another state and they want to get a hold of you or visit you. Do you do private consultations, or are you available for that?
Not yet, really. I'm so absorbed in trying to get this book out and finishing up the current cases I have in court so that I can devote more time to this. Then we'll get to that.
Okay. I gotcha. Okay, got it. I was just going to say that's fine.
I did have publisher has a website that's going up. It's not up already. Mona Lisa Ferris in Diversity.com has a website, and I have a website up under my name, John Stirling Kinross.
Yeah,
and you may see it on. Yeah.
Oh, I got you. I was just going to say, I was going to read off the different ways to that folks can go ahead and look at the information that you have online, obviously, so this way they can find you there. Also, I assume that if they leave you a message on your website, that'll get in touch with you directly. Is that correct? I mean, you check those, et cetera?
Yes, the message will be passed on to me, yes, it will.
That's what I thought. Okay, gotcha. Wonderful. Let me go ahead and I'm going to read these different ways off so you can get a hold of John. This way you can stay in touch with him in terms of the book, etc. His website, and it's John. I'm going to spell you his name. It's Stirling is his middle, and then the end is Kinross, which is Kinross. So the website is johnstirlingkinross.com. He's on Instagram with that same name. His Facebook page has that name as well. And then, of course, his Twitter handle is @John S. and then again Kinross, Kinross. Any other place where folks can find you on social media, or did I miss anything?
Oh, no, I think that's a marvelous job. Thank you.
Thank you. Well, I try. I'm a journalist. It is my job to get it right, definitely, without a doubt, certainly. So just to let you know, John, in about 2 hours, this episode will be archived. I'll send you a copy of this, and then I upload them to YouTube as well. So it'll be on Blog Talk Radio and YouTube, and then people can listen to it day and night for all of eternity now that you've been on the show. And certainly, after the book comes out and you decide that you need more exposure, please come back on the show again. I'd love to have you anytime.
Yes, I'll tell you how it's going and what the reaction is. So,
oh, that would be terrific. Because I am terribly curious, obviously. This sounds like a book that could be marketed very well and can do well if it gets in the right hands. So I'm excited for you. So, yeah, keep me updated on the progress, definitely. And feel free, like I said, knock on my door for exposure anytime you like.
Well, thank you. Yeah, we're beginning. The LA Times is interviewing me next week.
Exciting.
Their book club organization.
And that's a great place. LA Times is wonderful. That's awesome. I'm excited. Oh, my gosh, I'm so excited for you. That's great. All right, young man, I think we're all set. The clock on the wall here says I've got about 5 whole minutes of that, so I'll let you go to have a wonderful afternoon. Good luck in court today. I hope everything goes well for you.
Thank you so much. Yeah, it's been good
Anytime,
talking
dear.
to you.
Thank you, John. You take care. I'll talk to you soon. Okay. Do you see what I mean? I am surrounded by all sorts of intelligent talent. One more time, his name is John Stirling Kinross, and the website is johnstirlingkinross.com, and the same name for his Instagram and Facebook, and his Twitter is @John S. Kinross, and again, it's Kinross. Do not want to forget to mention Rachel with Big Hype Marketing. If it was not for her and her patience and understanding, we would never get some of these interviews done. She, of course, was gracious enough to pitch John. And I can't thank her enough for that. I mean, it's wonderful to be able to see that somebody puts together a resource, even though the premise of it may sound a little bit dark. It is with the best intent in terms of helping families. Again, the book is called How Your Husband Screws You in Divorce. Please keep your eyes open. Also, How to Bulletproof Your Marriage as well. Keep your eyes open. Check out the LA Times, like you mentioned, next week because they're doing an interview. If you have any needs in terms of PR or otherwise, Rachel's your girl, bighypemarketing.com. Otherwise, Ethel Bomberg works more so in the fitness space. She works, I mean, literally this girl works everywhere. Social media, sorcerer. That's going to be my new word for her. I'm not sure if she's going to like that or not. But she is one of the finest in her field. Her clients, obviously, are top-notch. Carla with Stiletto Gym is one of the ladies that she works with. Tomorrow, we're having another one of our clients on, which is Todd with SimFit. He'll be coming on the show tomorrow at 5 o'clock Central Standard Time. Rebel Vision. So if you're in the fitness world, health, spa, or wellness, go for it. She's now going into corporate catering as well. So she's a wonderful woman, full of dynamic ideas. And the website, if you want to check her out, is www.bfitmarketing.com. Again, Rachel, bighypemarketing.com. You can go ahead and check both of those ladies out. Thanks so much to John. Thank you so much to Carla. Thanks to my ladies for setting this up. And most of all, thanks so much to you guys for listening. I'll be back on the air tomorrow, 2 o'clock Central Standard Time with Michael, and then 5, of course, with Todd. You guys have a great night. I'm off to go get my kiddos. You take care.
When we go out to eat, we never agree on where to go.
I want burgers. Pizza.
Tacos it is.
The one thing we do agree on is we all want unlimited high-speed data. That's why we switched to Metro PCS.
Stop by Metro PCS with the whole family and get 4 lines with unlimited LTE data for just $100, period. Metro PCS. Wireless. Figured out.
Coverage not available in some areas. Offers require port and of number not currently active on T-Mobile network. During congestion, the fraction of customers using more than 35 gigs per month may notice reduced speeds. Video streams at up to 40p. No tethering. See store for details and terms and conditions.